This documentary is meant to relay the journey of the English colonists and their settlement in Jamestown. It wasn't a breeze for the colonists. They went through times of disease, starvation, and war, all of which will be shown throughout this documentary. It isn't easy starting up a settlement in a new land with little experience, and that's what we're trying to convey.
In the late 16th century to the early 17th century, England began with a very simple form of economy. Sheep and woolen cloth became the central source of British revenue. Landowners were allowed to enclose farms and fence off large grazing areas for sheep. This action was known as the Enclosure Acts. In order to take back their land, the landowners took over the farms which used to belong to the farmers, who then lost their jobs, which means the chances to make a living were now low. Therefore, the Enclosure Acts caused the population of the poor in England to grow rapidly.
Attention, attention! Everyone quiet down. King James has an amazing announcement that you shall now listen to.
Yes, thank you, unimportant side character. Okay, everyone, I have some pretty awesome stuff to say, so listen up. So I created this new decree called the Enclosure Act. This Enclosure Act is basically saying that the landowners will now be allowed to enclose their farms and fence off large grazing areas for their sheep. You landowners can kick the peasants off the farms and keep it for yourselves. Now go home, you filthy plebeians.
Gather round, gather round. I've been hired by the Virginia Company to bring you all over to the New World. Have you ever wanted to go to the New World? Well, now's your chance. It's a new life, new land, tales of gold and profit, new jobs and more.
Really?
Of course. Would I ever lie to peasants?
Well, I guess he's right. Let's go.
The original settlers came to Jamestown on the Susan Constant, the Godspeed, and the Discovery. There were 104 men and boys, including the crew members on board, who had left England on a bitter cold day of December and sailed down the Thames River. The sponsors of voyage hoped the adventure would become an economic prize for England. Since the Spanish had found mountains of gold in the New World, these voyagers were looking forward to finding riches and also a sea route to Asia. They didn't know when they landed on May the 14th, 1607, how many and what kinds of hardships they would face as they set out to fulfill their dreams of riches and adventure in Virginia.
Timothy, no! He was so young. Why'd he have to die?
We better throw him overboard, or he'll infect the ship. I'm feeling sick.
Are we there yet? I'm sick of all your complaining. I'm taking charge of this ship. Fine. You didn't want to be in charge of you heathens anyways.
Now be gone, Smith.
Wait! The letter.
What letter?
You know what I mean. The letter from the Virginia Charter.
Fine then. No way. This letter states that John Smith is a member of the council.
Who was not watching the fire? I'm sorry. It's on fire! It's fire! It's on! My trousers are on fire! It's going!
Beginning in the winter of 1609 and lasting until May of 1610, the starving time could be considered one of the worst winters in the colonial period. The starving time was a winter filled with starvation and disease, which was mostly due to two things. One reason of this famine was the burning down of the colony back in 1608. Although it happened a year prior to the starving time, it did greatly contribute to the event. A lot of provisions were burned up, and the settlers didn't really try to get more at first because they spent more time recovering items from the burned fort. When a ship of provisions from Europe was on its way to the colony, it was caught in a storm and sank, leaving the settlers with the only option to hunt for their food. Unfortunately, this option was taken away from the settlers thanks to the Powhatan Indians. The Indians used the famine to their advantage by practically trapping the settlers within the colony, meaning that they couldn't go out to hunt or fish. The settlers were forced to eat snakes, cats, dogs, rats, and even horses. There was a punishment for the few settlers who were brave enough to actually try and steal the remaining provisions, which was being tied to a post and starving to death. There were even few cases of people resorting to cannibalism. A man was reported to have killed his own wife, ripping out the baby from the womb and throwing it in the river, and then chopping up his wife to eat. The report is exaggerated, but there is no doubt that there were cases of cannibalism. The starving time only ended because the Indians basically said, "Oh look, spring, we should go start planting our crops," and they left, allowing the settlers to leave the colony and hunt once again.
Ever since the colony burned down, we've been having less and less provisions.
I know, and the ship that was supposed to bring more food hasn't come. You don't think it sank, do you?
You never know. Let's keep our hopes up for the time being. I'm so hungry. Those damn Indians aren't even letting us leave to hunt for food.
I know. I've had to eat my cat, filthy rats, and even snakes. I'm planning to steal some of the provisions tonight. You want to join in?
Yeah, okay, tonight.
Later that night.
Get them!
Run! I'm so hungry.
Sir.
And then they died.
I'm going crazy here, Beth. How do you expect us to live like this?
Just calm down. We have to stay strong for the baby.
No! Since when have you looked so delicious?
What are you talking about? Oh my gosh, what are you doing?
Oh, crap! Oh my gosh, this has been going on forever. When will those Indians stop this siege and we can get food again?
Hey guys, stop the siege.
Why?
Haven't you noticed the time of year yet? It's time to start planting crops again.
Well, why didn't you say so? Let's go, guys.
The first interactions between the colonists and Native Americans in Jamestown was not friendly. The Powhatan Indians began as hostile towards the colonists. It started with periodic attacks and led up to the capturing of John Smith, one of Jamestown's council members, in 1607. The daughter of Chief Powhatan, Pocahontas, helped resolve the conflict by negotiating with her father and freeing John Smith. Chief Powhatan hoped to keep the colonists close to him and under his influence, so when John Smith was set free, trade began to occur between the colonists and the Powhatans. But alas, tension continued between the two groups. In 1608, Jamestown was lit aflame and the Powhatans provided food to the colonists. Later in February, the Powhatans and colonists had their first official meeting, where one man from the colonists, Thomas Savage, was sent to live with the Powhatans, and one of the Powhatans, Nomentrack, was sent to live with the colonists. The agreement served as a peace contract between the two groups and created interpreters that could communicate between both sides. John Smith served as a major figure keeping a peaceful coexistence with the Powhatans, but when he left in 1609 due to a gunpowder accident, all trade flow between the colonists and Native Americans stopped. The replacement leader, John Ratcliffe, was kidnapped by the Powhatans when he and 30 colonists were invited to the Powhatan camp in hope of a store of corn. The 30 men were ambushed and killed, while Ratcliffe was captured, then tortured to death. To help bring peace, John Rolfe and Pocahontas were married in 1614, and this brought the First Anglo-Powhatan War to an end.